He was apologized for later on when the gravity of the situation became known. But it's hard to believe. The back page, what's the back page of the New York Post today? The front page is good too. The back page is the longest year, 365 days ago, the NBA stopped playing, and although we didn't know it at the time, our lives would never be the same. And then on the front page, Cuomo groped me. It's one of those standing heads. They could do that like almost any day. But I love this one. The latest accuser, the sixth accuser, says he invited her to his mansion, the the governor's mansion, up on the second floor. So he got her into his lair, and then he reached under her skirt. I believe it was under her blouse. I'm sorry, and under her blouse. I'm sure he was hoping to get under the skirt. I think it was the New York Times. One of his typical defenders who turned on him. It was probably the Daily News. Used to defend him against everything. Now they've kind of turned on him. Said it's the most serious accusation yet. So the sixth one is the most serious accusation yet. Doesn't change anything. The investigation is going on, and the usual suspects are defending him, and he's never ever going to quit. But it's fun. Don't you think it's kind of fun to wake up every day and see what the next accusers get to say? Listen to her story.
I don't know if fun is the right word for it.
I'm going to enjoy the downfall of this monster.
Oh, there's not going to be a downfall. Janice Dean was right, Gerry. Do you think he's going anywhere?
He's going to. I think there will be impeachment proceedings. Does he survive those? Probably. But I think there's enough Democrats who've turned on him. I believe the number is over 50. New York lawmakers, many Democrats who've turned on him. People, these are people, most of the accusers knew him intimately. They worked for him. They volunteered to, these are not Kavanaugh accusations from someone that never, ever met him. These are people that knew him and knew him well and probably knew what kind of guy he was, and they just...
Yeah, but he's a Democrat, Gerry. None of that matters. Don't you get it?
I do. I get it.
I wish I was being facetious, but literally the rules don't apply to them. Governor Blackface is still doing business down in Virginia. His Lieutenant Governor 𝗏𝗏𝗏, he's still in business down in Virginia. You can get away with literally anything if you are a Democrat. The only idiot who didn't get that memo was Al Franken.
Al Franken, right?
Is it something about political leadership too that these guys don't? They're so arrogant and they're willing to keep the fight going on and not resign and things like. If this were a Hollywood CEO or even just a Hollywood celebrity, they'd be done by now.
I'll explain it to you, and TurtleBoy knows this. Is they get so comfortable because they know the media, the watchdogs, are on their side. They know that the job of the New York Times, the Daily News, CNN, is to protect you at all costs, and they do their best. Eventually, if it gets real bad, they'll turn, the way they did on Clinton. And they're turning on Cuomo, but they know when they look out at a press conference, sort of like Jen Psaki or Biden, whenever he does a press conference, they know those are friendly faces. Those are allies, and their job is protect him. Make it difficult for other people to bring him down and cast doubt on any accuser. It's just the opposite. If you're Brett Kavanaugh, you get people who never met you saying that you gang raped them on a boat, and they go, oh, that's it. It's the noose is tight and the walls are closing in. They don't care that this story is suspect, if not laughable. Their job is to bring you down. That's the job of the mainstream media. We'll get to a couple of good examples of this. But Cuomo still thinks that he has allies in the media who will help him, shepherd him through this. And Janice Dean is right. He's never, ever going to resign. He's
way too arrogant. Way too arrogant.
Have you ever seen a more arrogant guy? And it doesn't help him in the court of public opinion, because when you look at him now and hear him, you say, that arrogant bastard. I wouldn't put anything by him. He thinks, pretty young aides, pretty young people working in the office are there for him. It's like he's the lion, and they're throwing in the raw meat to him, and he's raw. He's gonna grab them. That's what he does. And I'm not saying I'm enjoying the suffering of his victims, but this arrogant bastard thought he was going to get away with it forever. And thanks to Janice
Just
Dean.
look at how the pressure mounts on other people in the world, and social media takes a world of its own. Like 6 accusers are accusing some pretty gruesome details of the governor of New York, and he still has the arrogance that he can survive this thing, versus like a talk show host mentioned a reporter's name who's a public figure and the internet blows up over it. Like, where are the priorities?
That's my kind of story right there.
It's all about one team or the other. If you're on the right team, if you're the New York Times, if you're on that team, you can get away with anything. And Cuomo just assumed he was on the right team, and I think he's finding out that there's a limit. And I don't know what the limit is. It was funny that New York Assembly, the Senate Democrat leader said 3 was her limit, 3 accusers.
Well, you know what the thing is, Gerry? The reason they're willing to go after Cuomo now is because they know he'll be replaced by another Democrat, because it's New York, right? If this seat was up for grabs, if it was like a Republican could possibly become governor, if they were going to get rid of Cuomo, they would not be doing this. We've seen that happen. Like Joe Biden is the perfect example of that. Credibly accused of sexual assault by Tara Reid. They do nothing. Why? Because the alternative is Trump. You can't side with Tara Reid because you're helping Trump. Whereas with Cuomo, it's like, well, we might get a bigger socialist if we get rid of Cuomo, which is ultimately what many of them want.
That is true, and I think you mentioned Ralph Northam in Virginia, and that's a similar thing. It's obviously become a blue state. It used to be red, and then it was purple, and now it's deep blue.
Oh, it's blue.
Hopeless. It's hopeless, but they were thinking we have to protect Northam. I mean, who was caught with blackface and with a
Imagine thinking that, like, Coon Man must be protected at all costs. Coon Man.
A guy. And the reason is that he supports abortion after abort.
Yes.
I always joke about the 4th trimester. He literally is on record as saying after the baby's born, we can still abort it.
Well, make it comfortable. Get it comfortable.
Make it comfortable, and then kill it.
Yes.
And that's his shout out to the hard left, the radical left, and they were there for him, and he survived. You're right. He's an example. If you're Cuomo, you say, he did it, I can do it, I will survive. But he can't. The thing is, I don't think he'll get reelected. And to me, the best part is watching the frauds, the phonies, the cowards. And I'll just say it, our vice president, the 47th president of the United States, Kamala Harris, is the biggest coward in the country. This is a woman who didn't hesitate to pounce on whoever, Kavanaugh, you name it.
Oh, I thought you meant Willie Green. She pounced on him too. But go ahead.
Willie Brown,
whatever his name is.
he pounced on her. But Kamala Harris, Kirsten Gillibrand, people like that who killed Al Franken, who didn't less than this guy. And certainly, when you throw in that little nursing home scandal, he should be kicked out of office. He should be arrested. And I think Janice Dean and her crowd are still hoping that there are criminal charges, and there just might be. I mean, if you can't get arrested for killing 15,000 innocent senior citizens, I mean, what can you get arrested for? But yesterday, Kamala got asked, someone shouted a question, and that absolute coward. I mean, she's a phony and a fraud and a charlatan, but she's also a coward who doesn't have the guts to say, yeah, I'm concerned about these charges. She won't answer it because Cuomo is on her team. So she does not care about these 6 victims, soon to be 7, eventually 10, then 12, then 15.
What does Joe say? Does Joe have any comment about this, or does they just assume he's like, who's Andrew Cuomo?
Joe, this is a big night, by the way. This is not just the anniversary of the unofficial start of the pandemic, of the lockdown, and it's hard to believe what we've gone through for a year, and we can get into that. But tonight is a 15-minute address by Joe, and I'm just going to predict he'll get through it flawlessly. He'll read his script. He'll answer no questions. He'll express sympathy for the victims and all that, and say that we're battling, we're going to get through this and all in this together, blah, blah, blah. And his side will say, see, he's fine. He'll be drugged up, whatever drugs it takes, and he'll be rehearsed all day. I've probably already called a lid. He'll be practicing all day, and he'll get through it. I believe, you can check this for me if you could, Davis. I believe it's a 15-minute planned, pre-written address. So he'll be fine. It's when he has to eventually do a press conference, and maybe he never will. Maybe he'll never do a State of the Union.
That's what I'm saying. How is he ever going to do a State of the Union?
I mean, technically, he could write one and send it to Congress. Technically, that's how it used to be done. But he should have done one by now. He should have done a press conference. It's insane. It's his 49th day in office, and he's yet to do a press conference, which is amazing. Somebody showed a video yesterday, and it was Trump, and he was like heading to Marine One, and he just said, "Hold on," and he walked over to the media and says, "Let me talk to the fake news for a few minutes. What do you got?" And it was the most stark contrast where his people, his handlers, his PRs, press secretary, public, no, sir, let's get on Marine One, or let's get to work. Nah, I'm going to go talk to the fake news. And he walks over, and as you know, and I know, it wasn't always smooth, and he wasn't the most articulate spokesman, but he was fearless. And now we have a guy who is, I don't know if you saw the latest appearance at a hardware store when he was stumbling around the hardware store like lots of, senior citizens go to the hardware store on a slow day and just wander the aisles. And he was just, and they start asking questions. And the press people just go in full panic that he might actually respond. No, you gotta go. Press gotta go. Gotta get that sound for me, Dave. He's in the...
Let's go, you guys. Come on, press. We're gonna move out. Let's go, press. Let's go. Come on, press. Let's go. Come on, let's go. Crisis with the border, sir. Let's go, you guys. Come on, let's go.
Who are these idiots in the press listening to this woman say, "Come on, guys, let's go"? Like, if I was me and this woman saying, "Come on, guys, let's go," I'd be like, "Nah, I'm just going to go ahead and stay right here. You're not Secret Service. You're just some freaking chick on a power trip. How about you shut the fuck up and let me talk to the President of the United States?"
Consider that. They are so afraid that he will be forced to actually answer a question. This is the President of the United States, that they will shout down. And there's only one real hostile reporter, Peter 𝗬𝗎cy from Fox News. The rest of them are on his side. The rest of them are, CNN. These are essentially part of the Biden team. And they're saying, would you say something about the crisis at the border? And they are so afraid that he might respond, they have to shout over the question. You're not even allowed to get a question out because the plan does not call for an answer. And he's so scatterbrained that they're afraid he might actually answer it, and he might answer it the wrong way. But to me, the thing that looks the worst is not just when he's in public with that blank stare, but the walk. He's got that old man walk, that old man gait, and you go,
the shuffle.
That old man
shuffle. The feet don't leave the ground with him. It's like you're wearing slippers.
And I'm not sure whose idea was it to go to a hardware. I don't even know what the message was to go to.
Because he's building He's putting some shelves in at the White House chair. Jill's got him working on a project.
I heard Dan Bongino talking about, they call them the OTRs. He said not off the record. Maybe it is off the record. Things that presidents do, and the Secret Service has to be ready for it. He said, used to be with, Obama or Clinton, they would stop, for a burger at some real photo op in a real burger place, and they would laugh and joke, and it was part of the deal. And God knows Trump did it every day. An off the record decision, stop the car. I want to talk to these people. They said that they have no plans to ever have an OTR for Biden. There will never be an off-the-cuff appearance anywhere, ever. So that's something, if you're in the media, I guess you don't have to worry about him pulling over in the limo, in the presidential limo.
They said a lot about, like, what the world thinks of us when Trump was president. Like, what does the world think of us now? They can clearly see we elected... Out of 320 million people who live in this country, we decided to go with the senile guy who doesn't know where he is or what he's doing and is clearly...
Don't you think he's got it in him? Didn't he run? Remember when he ran out on stage that night? Was that election night or the night after? And he ran out. He's got it in him. He's in tip-top.
He thought he was going to be late for the freaking early bird special. That's why he was running.
It's a good question. They have, every day they call Liz. They say there will be nothing. He won't appear. There will be no questions. And even with that kind of protection, is one gaffe after another. We were talking about the other day, that thing where he said, "What do I do now, Nance?" Nance talking to Nancy Pelosi. They should bring the curtain down. The day where he actually tries to read the Congress people's names. He says Shirley Jackson Lee instead of Sheila, and then he goes, "What am I doing? Why am I here?" And you have to, if you're Jen Psaki or whoever, Susan Rice or Dr. Jill, you're just cringing every day saying, "Just please get through it, Joe." It's a good question. The rest of the world looks to us, right? And, with Trump, they might have cringed because he was America first and he was cocky and bombastic. they have to be looking at us now going, in my opinion, the first question they ask Turtle Boy is, who's next? When does she ascend to the throne?
She's already in charge. Clearly, this guy has no control or no say. He doesn't know what the hell's going on. You saw him in that hardware store. He looked confused and lost, and we knew this is how it was from day one. And like the things that he's pushing for, he doesn't know what the hell any of this means. Transgenders in sports. Like, you think Joe from Scranton gives a shit about transgender athletics? No, he's just like, okay, what am I signing? Jen Psaki's running the goddamn country.
Well, I don't know about 𝗪𝗏, but she's part of the cabal, I have no doubt. I mean, they're actually leaders in the House, I believe House and Senate. Bipartisan groups are asking how they can take the process, change the process where he can't declare nuclear war or hit the button without a group voting on it. So they want to take this unilateral right of the president to use nuclear weapons, take it away from them. And they're Democrats saying that. And does anyone blame them? You want that guy to have his finger on the button? And I've said it many times, I'll say it again, it's not going to get any better. In 6 months, it's going to be noticeably worse if you get to see him at all. I mean, it's one of those deals like, if this were a monarchy, first of all, they wouldn't allow any half-black babies in the family. No, none of that.
What about half-black presidents?
Secondly, he would just stay in the castle. It'd be like, then the whole question would be, how like Kim Jong-un will go like months and no one will see him and they'll wonder, and then, like Mike Barnacle will report that he's dead and he's not dead, but they'll say, what's going on? That's the way they want it. They want it so we will go months without seeing Biden. His group, his cabal will change the world and, have all these super radical bills go through Congress. He'll sign them, with like Weekend at Bernie's kind of deal, just sign them and shuffle off. And we will be left to speculate, left to wonder, because the alternative to us wondering how he is and what kind of condition he's in is what? Actually seeing it, confirming it. And then the panic, for any of us, all of us, it's not good for the country. There's going to be a day, Turtle Boy, in 6 months, 8 months, a year, where they can't protect him. It's going to be somehow.
But the thing about the good part is that when you tell Joe it's time, like when his aides come up to him and Kamala's just like, okay, Joe, it's time to resign. He's just like, oh, okay. He's not going to put up a fight. He doesn't even know he's president right now. He doesn't care. Like, oh, really? Okay. Well, I guess I'm done now. This was a good time. They're keeping him there in this condition because they know that he's the least offensive person that they can put in there.
Right.
Like they know how they look at the polling. They saw how Kamala did in New Hampshire. They're not stupid. They're like, well, this guy polls better, so we're just going to prop him up here for a bit, as long as we can.
And it's by design in a way, because obviously Bernie Sanders would have the same policies. They're just as radical. They're just in all the things of immigration and transgender and sports, you name it. But Joe has a benign appearance. He looks, when you look at him, if you're not paying attention, if you're not reading up, you just look at him, you go, he's a moderate from, Scranton. Yeah, it's old Joe. Yeah. Now, how much trouble could he be? How much danger could he present? He was VP for 8 years and we survived. And they don't really look at the details. So he's the perfect front man, except he can't make it through, a 10-minute press appearance. That's their only problem. So you're right. They will eventually move him aside, but I don't think he goes quietly, because Dr. Jill thinks she's president. She's not going to allow that.
Oh, the Dr. Jill factor. Forgot about her.
You think Dr. Jill's going to just say, oh, yeah, we'll go back to Wilmington with the dogs, please?
Why isn't she Secretary of Education, by the way? Has that ever happened before?
I don't know. Have you heard she's a teacher?
I know. She's a very good teacher. She's a great teacher. A doctor.
And a doctor. And, so she's, I guess, she could be the most powerful person in the world right now. You think she's giving that up? I don't think so. But we'll see. It's been 1 year since we started hearing about this scary virus. I think it was 1 year ago yesterday, 2 days ago, where Dr. Fauci said, do not hesitate to go on a cruise. There's nothing to worry about. Do not wear a mask. And if you want to find love, go ahead on Grindr.
I was your last guest in studio, Gerry. It was a Thursday. Cool. It was March 12th, so it was a year ago tomorrow, basically.
And then Sunday we all went to the Legacy Club and had pizza.
Not me. I'm not a super spreader. I didn't go.
Yeah, you didn't show up.
No,
March 16th.
I was
March
smart.
16th was the Biden-Bernie debate, and we had a debate party. We had a good time.
I don't believe anybody who was at that party got COVID at any point in time, right? I don't.
Good point. Did
Shannon get COVID this year? I feel like he said he did.
He wouldn't know. No. Actually, I don't think so. I don't think anybody did. We had pizza. We had peanuts and M&Ms. I paid everybody in M&Ms. And
you owe me a lot of M&Ms, by the way.
Watched the debate, and Joe survived that debate. That was a year ago. It's hard to believe we actually were all together having a few beers. Reamer showed up. He was on. I don't think it was just Bud Light that night. No, not for the Reams.
He was on some special sauce. Nice, good for him.
Right, he goes hard, and but it's hard to. That's like the last even semblance of a party, of a gathering that I've attended. Not by my choice. I just don't get invited to anything.
I was gonna say.
It's against the law anyway. But you know what's amazing to me? We got a lot to get to here. We're going to get to that Taylor Lorenz story. I know you're into that. So am I. And we're going to get to the Julian Edelman, who should be the example for everybody in this crazy cancel culture world. Julian Edelman is leading the way out of the darkness and into the light.
He's the official ambassador to Judaism for the NFL.
Yes,
that's what he is.
It should be. He's been great. But here's the one thing that blows my mind. I should say one thing. There's a million things that blow my mind in the last year with the lockdowns and the insanity and the George Floyd and everything else. But what does Florida, what does the anti-lockdown crowd have to do to prove that they're doing it right? What more could they do to show California, New York, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts? What more do they have to do to show them that they're doing it right and we're doing it wrong?
There's nothing you can do to show them, Gerry. There's nothing. Facts don't matter to these people, and we need to start calling these people out for what they are: conspiracy theorists, the thing that they like to call us. If you are still into the lockdown nonsense, you are a conspiracy theorist. You are ignoring the data, the science, the results, the control groups. Look at any other country in the world that hasn't done lockdowns, and you'll see that they have no proportional rise in cases, deaths, nothing. You are a conspiracy theorist.
There was a piece on Fox News where they went to Florida and California and kind of went to similar restaurants. And it's heartbreaking because you talk in Florida, they say, yeah, we're doing great. The show's full. The waitresses and bartenders are making money. The owners are happy. The weather is good in both places. So the windows are open. The ventilation's great. Then they go to California. I think they were in Napa and they were in Southern California. Beautiful restaurants with a view, with the windows open, some outdoor patios. And the owners are just sitting in a chair going, yeah, we're destroyed. They ruined us. They ruined. And I'm thinking, this is utter madness. You have this tyrant, Gavin Newsom, who's much like other left-wing tyrants like Charlie Baker and Ned Lamont and Andrew Cuomo, and you present them like on a platter. You say, here's the evidence that this lockdown thing's not working. Look at Florida. I say this all the time. When restaurants go out of business in Boston and the media invariably says, oh, the pandemic killed them. The pandemic, the virus ruined them. I say, no, it didn't. The governor ruined them. The same pandemic is in Florida. And if that same restaurant were transported, up, put it in a moving van, move it to Jacksonville, it would be fine. In fact, it'd be thriving. Speaking
of Gavin Newsom, did you see who voiced support for him on Twitter 2 days ago?
Yeah,
Bernie Sanders, okay? Talk about a sellout. A guy who was against the machine and corporate America and all this shit. And you're shilling for Gavin Newsom, a human Ken doll, who is flagrantly violating his own health protocols and doesn't care. There is no bigger phony in the world than Bernie Sanders. That guy pretends to be like the guy who's like, oh, I'm from the working class sector of the Democratic Party. No, you're a shill for the establishment. That's why you got behind Hillary. That's why you got behind Biden, because you ultimately shut up and do as you're told when push comes to shove, Bernie.
He's a shill, but he's a shill with 3 big houses. So get it right.
That's true.
He's a sellout, but he doesn't come cheap. But to me, I shouldn't say I don't have a dog in the fight. It hurts us all when governors destroy the economy. It hurts us in New York and Massachusetts, wherever, when a governor ignores the science and crushes small business and does the bidding for Amazon and Apple and Walmart. It hurts us all. But your heart has to break for these restaurant owners and gym owners, and they just sit there and go, what are we supposed to do? We put up the plastic thing, blah, 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 and they still will not. I mean, they make a big announcement. We're going to let you open at 50%. And these guys are going, I can't get my staff to come back to work at 50%. Why? Why not 100%? And they can't give you a reason because there's no science behind it. In fact, there is the greatest example of what happens when you open up in Florida. Take a look. They won't look. Charlie Baker just went to Florida for some family thing. He must have gone out to eat. I'm surprised nobody reached out to you, Turtle Boy, and said, here's Baker eating out without a mask, because they all do it. They're all hypocrites.
Of course.
But it's one thing to do stupid things like, raise the gas tax and say you're going to stop climate change. That's one thing. That's stupid and it's wrong. But it's another thing to say, I am going to destroy the livelihoods of thousands of people to make it look like I care about the virus, when in fact, you are heartless and cruel and ignoring science. I think history will judge people like Newsom and Cuomo and Baker and Whitmer harshly. We're going to see that they ruined thousands of lives, and it had nothing to do with science. It had nothing to do with concern about the virus. It had everything to do with their power and how much they just loved flexing their muscles and showing everything.
We're going to start having control groups, Gerry, and these are major states, Texas and Florida. Like, Texas is open for business now. The Texas Rangers announced yesterday that they are going to allow full capacity, 100% at baseball games. And guess what, Gerry? People are going to go because nobody is scared of coronavirus. I've said this from day one. Nobody's scared of it. People claim to be, but push comes to shove. Would you go to a full stadium right now?
Yes, of course I would. I need to correct you though. There are some people who are scared of it. They're not really paying attention. They're either dumb or they're dishonest, like our governor. Our governor is very, very dishonest. He lies every day. Yeah. He makes up stories. The Massachusetts governor about friends who died from the virus.
Do you think those people are season ticket holders, Gerry, to the Texas Rangers? No. So the stadium will have no effect on ticket sales whatsoever. They will not have any. If the New England Patriots wanted to sell out their stadium tomorrow, they would have zero problem with it. Zero.
The problem people will have will be with the stupid rules. They'll say, you mean I can't get a beer from a vendor, or I can't, have to wait in a line to go to the bathroom 6 feet apart. It's too long. I mean, there'll be all these dumb rules.
Guess what? Have you been to these games? I used to be a beer vendor at Gillette Stadium. Nobody enforces anything. You're not supposed to give him the cap. You just give it to him anyway. You know what I mean? You're not supposed to give him more than 2 at a time, but he tips you, so you give him more.
Yeah, but the pain in the ass aspect of it all will keep people away, right? Like, I don't want to go to a freaking I don't want to go to a football game with a mask on the entire time.
Then you don't wear the mask. You just take the mask off.
I mean, they show.
What? You're not gonna? You think they're gonna kick people out for not wearing a mask? Are you insane?
If enough people are doing it, there's gonna be
If enough people are doing it, then they can't stop it.
Know what the funny one is, though, and you saw it like at the Super Bowl and the NFL playoffs, they have a mask and it's just not over their mouth. And so you're going to have a guard or some kind of hall monitor going through the stands saying, pull that up. Your mask isn't covering your nose. That person's going to feel like an idiot. And they will eventually just say, I didn't see it. It'll be.
Exactly. That's my point. Like, nobody's going to want to enforce it. It's going to naturally correct itself on its own. It's like with schools. Like they say with schools all the time, that kids aren't wearing masks in schools. Well, of course they're not, because they're kids. They're going to take them off. Good luck. I mean, I used to be a teacher. It was impossible to get kids from stop texting, like in the hallway constantly. Like, eventually it's like there's some battles you just can't fight. And masks is going to be one of them. Just give up with the masks. Nobody wants to wear a mask. They don't work.
Well, if you heard Flip-Flop Fauci said yesterday, I mean, he does not want to give up this power. He is having too
many steak dinners.
He said when the science doesn't back up his position, something along these lines, then we're left to our own personal judgment. And his judgment is we should never stop wearing masks, never open up. And unfortunately, some people still listen to this quack. I mean, it's sad. It's been a year, and we've probably known that he's full of it for 6 months now. But some people clearly still. I mean, did you hear what he said? It was about a week ago. It was remarkable. And they asked about opening schools again, and clearly schools should have been open. They've been open in Florida since September. They should have been open everywhere. We know that. It's strictly the greed of the teachers union that keeps them closed. But they asked him about opening schools, and he said, "I really think we have to pass the stimulus package first." And I'm going, What? You're supposed to be a doctor, a scientist, an epidemiologist. What does the stimulus package have to do with it? He's just a political hack, and eventually everybody will see that. It will be clear to everybody that he's just another political hack. He's a 50-year bureaucrat who's just trying to save his phony baloney job and support his side of the aisle, which is Biden, which is Harris, which is Pelosi. Those are his people, and he should be happy now. The pork pack, this outrageous pork barrel bill is going to pass. As Republicans did their best. Unfortunately, it's all the fault of the Georgia voters. Everything that happens now, I blame on Georgia. It's all their fault. They elected Warnock and Ossoff, and we are all paying the price.
We got 𝗏𝗏 and Manchin now.
Well, it's too bad because they're bailing out. The worst thing, if you take a look at it, is bailing out all the cities who mismanaged and were in serious deficits. San Francisco, a city where they take taxpayers' money and they buy drugs and booze for homeless people. They literally give them weed and booze on the taxpayers, and they ran up a big deficit, and we just bailed them out with this pork barrel that has nothing to do with COVID. And, Democrats and media people will sit there and lie to you and say, oh, it's a rescue bill. It's helping people through this tough $1,400 we're going to give everybody, including 𝗟𝗏𝘗𝘃 and Dylan Roof. They get their $1,400 stimulus bill money. But if they just gave people money with $1.9 billion, everyone would get $5,700. Instead, they get $1,400, and the rest goes to teachers' unions and pensions and a train from Silicon Valley to San Francisco or whatever it is. Just one pork-barreled project after another. It's too bad people don't pay attention. It's too bad the media doesn't tell the truth about this, but such as it is. And you know what? In 6 months, there'll be another pork-barrel bill with more of the Nancy Pelosi's goodies, the liberal witch list in it. But all right, we can do that every day. We'll talk about that every day, but we had a couple things to get to. I want to get to this Taylor Lorenz New York Times story.
I like this story.
Tucker story. You like this? I love this story. It's a good story. I'm not sure how many people are into it, but first, Julian Edelman. You know how every organization now, and some of them are insane, every university or every corporation has these massive bloated departments for inclusion and diversity. I mean, I think I saw the number in, it was a college, University of Michigan. Their inclusion and diversity department has like 1,000 employees. They're spending millions to promote advance inclusion and diversity, which is all that matters in some of these places. Nothing matters. Nothing trumps, skin color and sexual orientation. That's all that matters, right? Well, I don't know what the title should be, but NFL, Edelman's almost done, right? I mean, he's banged up. He's had a great career, great overachiever,
Hall of
big
Famer,
winner, champion. But that he's got some issues. Doctors, neurologists are probably telling him, Julian, you might want to walk away. He should be hired by Roger Goodell, vice president of, and I hate those words, diversity and inclusion, but something of common sense, because he dealt with, and he's done it twice in the last year. He dealt with a very common problem these days. A guy who got himself in trouble, a young guy, for saying something really stupid, offensive, something that's just over the line. This guy, Myers Leonard from the Miami Heat. If you missed this story, he was playing typical. Is this not the most 2021 story? A dumb basketball player hurt. He's hurt. He's not playing basketball. He's playing video games. And he's on, what is it, Dave? Twitch?
Yeah. Why is it dumb? I mean, it's the way of the world now.
Why is it dumb? Where a grown man is playing video games, shouting out racial, ethnic slurs?
You might think it's dumb. It's considered sports now.
Can I just play? How does that work? Could I play Myers Leonard in NBA 2K? I could just jump on. I don't know how to.
Twitch account. You could play him in Call of Duty, which seems to be the game of his choice. Yeah.
I'm with Gerry on that. What kind of grown man is still into that? That's weird.
Millions of grown men.
That's weird.
He's 29 years old. He's Miami Heat, but he's out again with an injury, 7-footer. And he's playing this game on Twitch. Is it Call of Duty? I thought it was like
I don't know what game. I don't know anything.
Like an auto race, some kind of race. And he's playing the game, and he's yelling and trash talking. And in the middle of his shouting and yelling, and is a pretty nasty ethnic slur, a Jewish slur. We can play it. I mean, there's nothing against the law, but listen, I mean, when people try to describe it on TV, you don't really quite get the picture, right? You know, how's that work? He's doing a video game, and there's a camera on him, and he's going against somebody, and he's just yelling, and in the middle, he blurts out a slur. Well, since, we are a podcast, we can do this. Let's play it and find out exactly what Myers-Leonard, what got Myers-Leonard in trouble.
Let's go, big fucking cowards. Don't fucking snag me, you fucking kite bitch. I just dropped that on my head. That didn't even go to fucking, anyways.
That's it? I mean, it's a bad word. But
who's he playing against? Who's the kid? Like, I don't know how this works, Callahan, you know.
It could be anyone. It could be a friend that just joined in his game. He could be playing somebody random who asked to play him. But
why would you want it broadcast? I can tell you why you wouldn't want it broadcast. First of all,
Amazon owns Twitch. It's a big deal. It's a huge moneymaker. Actually, Toucher and Rich broadcasts on Twitch every morning. But
if somebody watches Myers-Leonard play some stranger in what's that game? Call of Duty?
Let's call it Call of Duty because I have no idea.
Oh, these people are losers, Jerry. I know people that would come home and watch the computer play itself in Madden. I shit you not. Like, I got to get home and watch the computer play itself.
Yes. Yep.
So I had a friend in college, Jewish guy, and we were talking one night, the way you do, sitting around, maybe, having a beverage or two. But no, he didn't have a beverage because he was a bodybuilder. He's a little Jewish guy, tough guy, and he lifted 3 hours a day and looked at himself in the mirror. We're having this conversation, and I, as usual, saying, I don't care what you call me. You call me a Mick or whatever, a honky, there's nothing. And he said, I feel the same way, except one word. You cannot say this one word. And we're like, what do you mean? He says, this word is as bad as the N-word. It's, please don't ever. And he would not stand for it. In that word is worse than we think. We think it's just another dumb slur that some young moron meatheads blurted out. It's worse than that to Jewish people.
The K word is?
The K word is, yes. And I don't really know the origin of it, and I don't care. I don't want to get into that. But Edelman knows this. Edelman could easily have made this guy's life more difficult. He could have easily said, my people, that's worse than the N-word, that hurts. I mean, we start talking about whatever, the Holocaust, and really piled on.
Or he could have just said nothing. Like, why is it Julian Edelman's job to be the ambassador for Judaism every time somebody says something anti-Semitic?
Well, why not? If he wants to be, if he volunteers for that position.
It's just like this whole, I listened to that clip. It's not a good word, whatever. Like, he said it in the spur of the moment. It's not the end of the world. We don't need this whole PSA about, you know what I mean? I don't know. Maybe I'm just
yes, I do know what you mean. Ultimately, that would be the way we handle everything. Just say, what an idiot, and then he says, sorry, I didn't mean it, and you move on. That's the way it used to be, right? People said stupid things and apologized or not.
Or just whatever. He said something stupid. Like, who cares? Like, he's playing a game. He obviously didn't mean, it's like he said it a bunch of times.
And you know what the other difference is? And I disagree. I think what Edelman did was beautiful and gracious, and it should be the envy of everybody when these things happen. But the other thing he didn't do is attack anybody. Like Nick Cannon, who, by the way, is back on the air, gainfully employed. Nick Cannon, he made the case that white people are inferior. They're like animals. They're savages. They don't have the melatonin. It was some insane Farrakhan stuff. That is different. That's like actually letting us into your mind and your way of thinking, and you think another race is inferior. What Nick Cannon did is worse than what anybody else has done in years. In terms of cancel culture and crossing the line and offending, he literally said, "White people are worse, beneath us. They're like savages." And by the way, he went to sensitivity training and took a few weeks off and came back, which is incredible. He's back at work. And
did that bother you a lot when Nick Cannon said that?
Yes. When he
why?
Said so, because there's a double standard.
Right, and I get that, but my point is there should be no standards, none. There shouldn't be double standards. There should be no standards.
So you would want a guy. Just say the host of The Bachelor, because he's obviously in trouble, and he did nothing, zero, nothing. So he's out on his ass, got no job, replaced by Emmanuel Agcho. for doing nothing. And Nick Cannon, who said white people are inferior, they're savages, they're animals, is back at work. Now, if that double standard doesn't bother you,
the double standard definitely bothers me. But
that's not what it's all about. Why don't you understand that?
I want I don't want double standards. I want no standards. I want anybody like Nick Cannon. You know what the solution to Nick Cannon saying something like that is? Don't listen to Nick Cannon, which I wasn't doing anyway.
Okay. Yeah, what Nick Cannon did, I think your point, Gerry, is there's a lot of research and venom in Nick Cannon's words versus this scenario, which is this kid is obviously an idiot, but even in his statement, he says he didn't know what the word meant.
Exactly.
He was trying to, he's saying it, he's trying to use a word that he apparently doesn't know what it means to look cool.
You know what? I'm buying it. I believe it. Yeah. Do you think he really, like I said, my Jewish friend thought, and he's obviously much older than Myers-Leonard, thinks that word is the N-word. It is really, really bad, and he said he can't handle hearing it. Blah, blah. Do you think Myers-Leonard knew that word was that painful, that harmful? Of course not. He didn't even know what it is. He's just yelling out, blurting out stupid things he's heard, from other people. He claimed ignorance, and I believe it. He's not that smart. Nick Cannon is studying under Farrakhan, and he's buying into these insane theories, these racist, these vile theories that what if Nick Cannon's part of his job is choosing who to elevate and who to hold back? Like if he were in charge of the company, and he probably is in charge of a production company, he has to hire and fire. So he hires and fires. You think he's going to give a white person an even shake when he thinks that they're inferior, that they're like animals?
No, I don't.
That's a problem. When you're in charge of people and you think one race is better than the other, literally, physically better, superior.
Yeah, that's real racism. What you're describing right now is actual racism.
Exactly. That's the definition. What Chris Harrison did, and I don't even remember exactly, he said, let's show compassion.
Because a girl went to an antebellum party.
Right. She went to an antebellum party 3 years ago, and he said, let's have some compassion. And he's been apologizing since then. It's insane because what we do here, what outrages me, and I don't deny it, I can't get used to it, is when there are double standards and people are punished, people are canceled for nothing. Like Jeremy Roenick, like Mike Milbury, like Chris Harrison, for nothing. And Mike Milbury and Chris Harrison have to sit home tonight, flip on their TV, the flipping channels, and there's Nick Cannon hosting a show. What show does he host?
He's got a morning radio show. He hosts The Masked Singer. I mean,
hosting The Masked Singer, making millions. And they're going, wait a second. I asked for compassion for somebody who went to a dumb antebellum party. He said white people are inferior. They're like animals and savages. He's on TV. He's making millions. I'm home unemployed.
Yeah, but just be like Piers. Like Piers Morgan showed the world. I mean, he's a liberal too. He's like an anti-gun fanatic, Gerry. These Brits, they don't like guns very much.
He's big into the First Amendment, not so much into the Second Amendment.
Right, and so like you see what happened to him. Like he's just like, I'm not backing down. I apologize for nothing, which you can afford to do when you're very wealthy. Like him, and you don't need more work. I mean, he'll figure out a way to make money, whatever. Like for a lot of people, they can't afford to do that. Which is why, like, people like Chris Harrison, I'm sure he's a multi-millionaire. What the hell is he apologizing and groveling for?
He shouldn't have. It's a good point. He's worth $20 million. He's 50 years old. He's been doing it 20 years. He's loaded. But you know him.
Because he's likely a conservative. He just doesn't want anybody to know it. You know what I mean? Like you see on the inside, he doesn't want anybody to know what his real beliefs are. And now people kind of read into it because of his words, even though they meant nothing, and they go at it.
You hit on something there, because some people who get canceled, and there's no doubt that they'll survive, they'll bounce back. Piers Morgan's a great example. As Dave said, he should be the 7 o'clock guy on Fox making millions. He'll land on his feet. He'll make money. He'll be fine. Gina Carano, same thing. She's working. She's making money. She's fine. It's the people who get canceled and have nowhere to go. And it was part of our discussion about this absolute embarrassment, Winston Marshall. And we talked about it yesterday, and everyone's talked about it, the banjo player. And by the way, he's not just a banjo player. He's a founding member of Mumford & Sons. And this is the most insane story. And I don't want to get into it. We talked a lot about it yesterday, and we got to get back to Edelman and get to Taylor Lorenz. But this guy was canceled. This guy was kicked out of the band for endorsing, for just saying he liked a book, which...
That was critical of a terrorist group.
If the book were Mein Kampf, it's one thing. If the book were White Fragility, I'd say, okay, that's insane. The book was called Unmasked by Andy Ngo, exposing Antifa. Antifa is a violent, criminal, anarchist group. They commit crimes. They hurt people. That's what they do. They burn buildings. They attempt to blind cops. Andy Ngo went undercover. Apparently, it's a very good book, very thorough, exposes these absolute scumbags for what they are. So this guy says, I like the book. I recommend it. I'm not sure. And I guess, I feel like I've read a lot about this and kind of understand. I'm not sure who exactly made up the mob that came after him. Now, if it's Antifa people, honestly, who cares? They're Antifa people. They're scum. Who else was like the New York Times? The CNN, the usual woke mob, the Boston Globe? Were they upset? Because I don't think so. It amazes me. And he bowed to this mob and he apologized to everybody and said his words, his recommendation to read this book was hurtful and it caused a lot of pain.
Oh, right.
To whom? To whom? It was
also, I feel like everybody's overreacting. You're even kind of implying.
The guy's out of the band, Dave. He's out of the band.
No. I'm saying, do you think his tweet really endorsed and implied? He said, "I read your important book. You're a brave man."
No, yes.
It's like we're implying that this is some full-fledged. He didn't say, "Hey, everybody, the bravest man in America wrote a book. You should go read it." It was kind of a light little tweet. It's complete overreaction anyway. But then if you actually start thinking about it, I would think it's even more so.
Think of it. The subject of the book is Antifa. Again, if the subject of the book were whatever, the media or Trump, or even if it were, Amazon or big tech or whatever, there's lots of things people write today critical of, the opposition. And it wasn't even Black Lives Matter, which would have been acceptable. It was Antifa. He criticized it. What if he wrote a book critical of the Proud Boys or the white supremacists? It'd be okay, but you criticize Antifa, who's caused billions of dollars in damages, who've ruined lives, ruined businesses. He criticizes them. And not only does he apologize for it, he leaves the band and apologizes to his bandmates. I'm telling you, Mumford & Sons will never recover from this. People like me will look at them and say, what a bunch of pussies.
That's a lie. That's a lie, and you know it. That's a lie.
Why is that a lie?
Not a lie. You watch. They will never recover from this. They'll be fine.
The next song will go number one on Billboard Hot 100.
They'll be fine. They'll be fine. But people will always look at them and say, that's the band that kicked the guy out for nothing. For nothing. And this is what he has to be. You do something this egregious, people have to remember it. We have to put a big P, brand you with a P on your forehead for being such pussies. What they did to this, and I don't have any sympathy because Winston Marshall apologized, but his bandmates are pathetic for kicking him out. They suck. Mumford & Sons sucks. Mumford and his sons, they all suck.
Couldn't tell you a single song they made. I don't even know.
Oh, yeah, you would know them if you heard them.
Which song did they say?
Who cares? The fact that you're ignorant about music doesn't help.
I probably heard it on the radio a couple times.
Why do people say that? I never say, well, I know nothing about them. Well, so what? What does that have to do with
what song do they sing?
I Will Wait was a big song. Little Lion Man was their big.
Oh, that's them? I Will Wait. Okay, I know that one. See, that's all I'm saying. I don't associate. I hear the songs. I don't ask who sings it. When Prince died, I couldn't tell you a single song he made.
That's a lie.
No, I'm not kidding. I couldn't tell you a single song Prince made. Prince, yeah. People like Purple Rain. I'm like, what the hell's Purple Rain?
Red Corvette. You never heard of
Never heard of it.
Raspberry Beret. This is
Purple Rain.
No, I heard his music after he died. I'm like, what the hell is this? This guy is a celebrity. This sucks.
You just focused on too many ratchets, Turtle Boy.
Apparently, I don't know. This guy blows.
I don't know why'd you let me get sidetracked on that again, Colin? We did it yesterday. It's so crazy.
Jerry, you're way more hip than I am. I'm sorry. You're way more in tune with pop culture. You watch Saturday Night Live and Meghan Markle, and I'm not up to date with that stuff. I apologize.
It has nothing to do with hipness. It has to. I just explained the story to you. Have you ever heard anything so crazy in your life?
Yes, actually, I have. I've heard a lot. Maybe we can make a top 10 list. To me, nothing's crazier than the Des Moines Register story from a year and a half ago when they went after the kid for raising money for the cancer charity. That's still the most crazy cancel culture story I've ever heard in my life.
Except the kid did have offensive tweets in his past when he was like 12.
Yeah.
In this case, Winston Marshall did nothing. And Chris Harrison, by the way, did nothing. And he loses his job making like $5 million a year. But we're going to get to the other side to this. Someone who does things right, someone who did do something. I want to quickly give you Julian Edelman's statement, because here's what I love about this. He offers, the olive branch. Let's have lunch. I'll show you a good time. The same way he did to Deshaun Jackson. He knows it's offensive. Believe me, he knows his family, people in the Jewish community find this extremely offensive. Myers Leonard already lost, what did he lose? Endorsements, sneaker deal, something. He's lost money. The team, he's hurt, but the team came down hard on him. We don't condone this. Everybody's ready to just lop off his head, and into the void steps Julian Edelman with an open letter. And, he says, I'm sure you're getting lots of criticism for what you said. I'm not trying to add. I want to offer some perspective. And here's the part that matters. He says, I get the sense that you didn't use that word out of hate, more out of ignorance. And he says, most likely you weren't trying to hurt anyone or even profile Jews in that comment. That's what makes it so destructive. When someone intends to be hateful, it's usually met with great resistance. Casual ignorance is even harder to combat and has greater reach, especially when you combine great influence. That is the key. Do you think this guy really, hates Jews?
If I was Myers Leonard, I would tell Julian Edelman to fuck off. Like, I don't need to be lectured by Julian Edelman. Weren't you in trouble like 9 years ago for grabbing ass at some bar in Boston? Maybe I should lecture you about how to treat women, Julian Edelman.
He was totally innocent. He did nothing. We were getting live reports from the cop at the scene on how he did nothing. But anyway, we don't have to.
It's just this lecture of he has this moral high ground to lecture you. No, stop.
You're wrong about a lot of things. You couldn't be more wrong than this. What Julian Edelman did was throw him a life preserver, just like he did with Deshaun Jackson, and nail it. They're going to say that all the people that want to lop off Myers Leonard's head and take away his job and fire him and ruin, they're going to say, oh, it's so hateful. It's not hateful. It's ignorance. The guy's an idiot. He doesn't even know he admitted it. He goes, I don't even know what the word means. He's just blurting out stupid words while playing video games. That's not the same as, Louis Farrakhan saying Jews are termites or inferior. That's a whole different thing. I like when people make the separation, ignorance to actual hate, to actual racism or anti-Semitism. Julian Edelman is right. It's nice. It's brief. It's clear. And he offers to go out to dinner with him and have a good time and talk to him, just like he did. Julian Edelman, when he retires, should be vice president of common sense for the NFL. That's my take.
We call that a win-win, Turtle Boy. That made Julian Edelman look like an absolute rock star again on an issue like this. And it took a tiny bit of the press and heat away from this kid who is just an ignorant fool.
And the conclusion is, how you wrap this up? They go to lunch. They say, we had a great time. We had a good conversation. I've learned a lot. Then you move on. That's how it ends. If you just leave it open-ended and say, take away his endorsement deal and make him go to sensitivity training, it never ends.
It is. I mean, it did end. It's over. I don't give a shit if they go to lunch or not. He sent out his statement, his letter yesterday. It's over. We didn't, to Turtle Boy's point before the show, we didn't hear about Deshaun Jackson and did they have lunch or whatever?
That's because Edelman took care of the Deshaun Jackson thing, and because for some reason Deshaun Jackson gets a pass because he's kind of a crazy. This kid, they could end his career. He's not that good. They could end his career over this if they, the JDL and other groups really wanted to bring in the pitchforks and string them up. They could. Edelman stopped that, prevented that, stepped in to the breach and gave this kid a second chance. It's brilliant. I hope he continues to do that. There should be people doing that every time someone like this says something out of ignorance. But anyway.
And by the way, he had two careers screwed because you guys can make fun of it all day long. I bet he was earning damn near close to probably $500,000 on Twitch. I bet. I wouldn't be
kidding.
Maybe that's a lot, but he
play Call of Duty. Is that because he's really good or because
it's just because it's exploding? It's not. It hasn't even kids watching other people play video games haven't even come close to reaching their peak, and it's already billions.
I'm obviously. I know who Mumford & Sons are, but I'm ignorant to that. That is just another world. Getting paid millions to play video games, and people are going to sit and watch on Twitch.
Yes.
Before Turtle Boy, storms off like Piers Morgan because
I'm more into the Taylor Lorenz story. I'm all in on that one, Gerry. We haven't even gotten to that.
I keep teasing it because he's like, okay, when do we?
That's my cup of tea right there.
TurtleBoy is so obsessed with Tucker Carlson. It is.
I am. He's my idol. How can I not be? He's the leader.
He's been great. He's the voice of the resistance, and ever since Trump went away, he's kind of like the leader, our leader. I would never miss his opening monologue. The guy nails it every day, and here's what's great about him. And I know you agree, TurtleBoy, is he goes to that line. And he never appears to fear going over the line. He takes on people, places like the New York Times, and says, screw them. I'm going to say what I got to say. Come on after me if you want. He never holds back.
He also phrases it. He always makes it seem like he's standing up for the common man against corporate America. He's really good at really driving that home. Even the other day he did a segment on feminism and how it's just like these tech companies just want you to go there and work 80 hours a week for them to make them richer. So he takes like a populist take on everything and makes it sound like even though he's kind of like a rich prep boy, he's still kind of like the voice of the common man.
That's what I was going to say. All three of us would never hang out with Tucker Carlson in real life. We'd stuff him in a wall.
I'd like to, hang out with him and be in his world. And he took that from a Babylon Bee tweet, which was facetious, obviously a joke, a parody, and he expanded it into this great commentary about how actually maybe having a family, kids and is better than being in the workforce, grinding it out for 80 hours a week. And the feminists don't see it that way, but he gave the other side, as he often does. And this issue, this story, this Taylor Lorenz, if you haven't heard it, haven't seen it, I have to do 𝗪𝗂𝗃, and then we're gonna make TurtleBoy happy and do Taylor Lorenz.
Thank you.
Let me tell you what 𝗪𝗂𝗃 can do for you. Okay, TurtleBoy?
Yes, I approve.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. I'm going to try to tell the Taylor Lorenz Tucker Carlson story, and you can correct me where I'm wrong. Taylor Lorenz is a New York Times reporter, quote unquote. She's really a snoop, a sleuth, a troll. She's a little child of privilege, went to a Swiss boarding school, grew up in Greenwich. Now she works for the New York Times, and she's the ultimate example of privilege, just preppy, white, rich, liberal privilege. She snoops into these. Her job is covering tech. That's what she'll say.
Covering tech, yes.
But she'll snoop in these high tech conversations. These Clubhouse. She'll go on whatever, not just she'll go not just Twitter, but she'll go on whatever, Facebook and Parler and Clubhouse, and she'll try to catch people, try to catch them, with mean tweets or offensive tweets or saying things in these meetings.
And what's her objective?
And out them. And what she's done is to embarrass people, ruin lives. She reached out to Kellyanne Conway, George Conway's daughter, 15 years old, tried to get her to talk on the record, off the record, whatever, behind their parents' back. In other words, she is a slimy person.
Claudia Conway is a troubled child, and that's why I first found out about Taylor Lorenz. She also had a tweet a year ago. She said that air conditioning was sexist in the office, so we need to get rid of that. But with Claudia Conway is an out-of-control 15-year-old who is just blatantly defiant, particularly of her mother. And she's an example of what happens when parents work too much and they don't spend time with their kids. That kid needs attention. And so Taylor Lorenz, instead of going to George or Kellyanne and just saying, can I talk to your daughter about this? Or what do you think about this? She goes directly to the child, creeps into her DMs and makes the kid feel special. And she's like, oh my God, this new generation of TikTok influencers, Gen Z, is like totally taking the world by storm. They're pushing for climate change and this and that, because she's with them ideologically. And that's literally her job, is to go into children's areas and report on what people are saying and try to find something offensive that an adult says and get them canceled. Like last week she was in Clubhouse and she's like, so-and-so, some blue check mark said the R word.
It's the CEO, he's a billionaire, who Netscape founder. So she tried to catch him in this private forum, Clubhouse, saying things that were newsworthy, offensive. Hopefully, she's hoping. She hears somebody say something, I think it was, sexist or something, in the Clubhouse conversation, attributes it to him. It's a lie. So she lies about the man, gets caught, and doesn't apologize. You say, well, somebody said it. So she's completely unethical. What she does is completely and utterly unethical. But that's what, if you work at the New York Times, that's how you get ahead. We've said it many, many times. The New York Times is not a newspaper. It's just this radical left-wing arm of the woke mob. They don't care about journalism. They don't do journalism. I mean, as I said yesterday, I would say it applies to you. You do more journalism in one day than the entire New York Times staff does in a year. I mean, you try to break stories because that's what journalists do. They don't try to break stories. They try to ruin lives. And they do that. They don't care if they're 15-year-old kids or Covington Catholic school students. They want to ruin lives if they're not on the right side. If they're not woke, radical leftists. If they're Don McNeil, a 65-year-old reporter,
Right.
old school reporter, and he's white, so they say we must ruin him. We must bring him down. That's what they do. So Taylor Lorenz is in good standing at the New York Times because she's ruining lives, but they're the right lives. They're right wingers and conservatives and Christians. So Tucker points out,
Well, we got to get. She tweeted out the other day something to the extent of this. They have ruined my life. Like all these online trolls on International Women's Day.
Yeah,
I would ask you to be kind to women. You got the tweet?
I got it. Here's her tweet on Women's Day, and this is, keep in mind again, a woman whose job it is to catch people on social media and ruin them. She tweets, "For International Women's Day, please consider supporting women enduring online harassment. It's not an exaggeration to say that the harassment and smear campaign I have endured over the past year has destroyed my life.
Oh, poor
No
Taylor.
one should have to go through this."
She's had it so tough,
This
Gerry. So
is,
tough.
if you're familiar with who she is and what she does, this is laugh out loud funny. Laugh out loud.
Right,
funny.
like
Ruin your
any
life.
sane person sees that and just laughs. Like your life is ruined. You work for the New York Times. You have everything handed to you. The worst thing that has happened to you in your existence is that people say mean things to you on Twitter, or you get an anonymous email from some jackass who doesn't matter. And luckily, Twitter and all these, they come with block buttons. And so she whines about this. She puts it out there. Tucker goes on his show. He rightfully mocks her. And then all these other journalists are like, "Oh, Tucker's putting her in danger by saying your name. He said her name 5 times. That's way too. You should only say her name 2 times. You're putting her in danger. You're making her a target for more harassment." And my answer to that is, so what?
So she literally says it destroyed her life. She's a 35-year-old, rich, spoiled, pampered, privileged child who thinks, I mean, she's not Meghan Markle, but she's pretty privileged. She thinks a couple of, I don't care, it could be 1,000 people tweeting mean things at her destroyed her life. Now, no one knows this better than you. I know what it's like. You get mean tweets, you get threats, you get people mentioning your family, whatever. You can block them, you can ignore them. You could even get off Twitter if you wanted to. I mean, she could do any of those things. Hell, she could quit her job. She could get transferred to the food section. If she wanted to, and be fine. She chooses this life. She chooses this beat, and now she says these mean tweets have ruined her life. And the irony and just the insanity of that was why Tucker did it.
Right.
And then New York Times comes out with an official statement calling Tucker cruel.
For what? For saying that she's pointing out how this journalist at the most powerful newspaper in the United States, arguably the West, is making a fool of herself. That you can't do that on International Women's Day. And so there's this organization called Sleeping Giants. There's some Twitter blue check mark.
It's two people.
Right. They are the people who basically are in charge of the cancel mob. They go after Breitbart and Fox News' advertisers. And they're like, basically, they did what Murchison did with you guys. They take things out of context, they clip them, and they send them, "Are you okay with this, Ace Hardware, that you're supporting this?" Oh, these people are the absolute worst. There's a special place in hell for them. And they can screw right off. And so they really think they're accomplishing something. So I figure they're obviously standing up for Taylor Lorenz yesterday. So I go at them on Twitter with them. I'm back on Twitter at TurtleBoy Phone. You can find me on there shit posting on these people. And I basically said, like, there's no comparison between what her, like they said, well, remember a mob showed up at Tucker's house and he was whining about it? And I said, when did the mob show up at Taylor Lorenz's apartment on the Upper East Side? Did that happen? No, it didn't. So that's a false equivalency. And they start, and so they came back at me and they said, well, why don't you post your address, tough guy? And so I did. I posted my address. I said, here's where I live. I have active restraining orders against multiple people. I get death threats like this all the time. And I post a picture of a screenshot I got today from some lunatic threatening to inject my 3-year-old son with COVID-19 and then take a knife to his ugly face and cut it off, and it would be so exhilarating, she said. I go, I get stuff like this on the regular. Do you see me on Twitter whining about it? No, shut up and do your job. It comes with the territory. I'm sorry. It's unfortunate, but shut up. Nobody feels bad for you. Just shut your pie hole and go back to work.
It's true. If she were a sports writer or a food writer, it'd be one thing. And even then, we'd laugh at her and say that just tweets. Her job is to catch people in online, on social media, and ruin their lives. That's her beat. That's her job.
Well, actually, that's not technically accurate, right?
That is exactly accurate. Let me just 100% accurate.
I don't know if that's true. I don't know if that's true. She's like a culture and tech reporter. So if you go search her headlines, like all of her headlines aren't, Kellyanne Conway's daughter said X. She is talking about the news value of a certain platform. It's her day. It's her hobby, to be honest with you, to do this shit. It's her hobby to create a burner account on Clubhouse, to eavesdrop on.
She's looking to catch CEOs screwing up and ruin them.
She's tweeting about them. Like, she's not writing an article catching the CEO.
Okay, what is it? What are you talking about? What does that have to do with anything?
I'm just saying, like, she's a shitty person
on the tech beat.
Yes.
The goal is to catch people on social media who think they're, like we see all the time. Old tweets, mean tweets, catch them doing things they shouldn't do, out them, expose them, break a big story, and ruin them. That's her goal. Tucker pointed that out. The irony of that tweet on Women's Day is just.
You got a picture of her? Funny. Do you have a picture? I mean, I think the picture of her is just. They're so mad about the picture too.
But to me, the most insane part is Tucker literally had a mob, like Antifa scum, come to his house, pound on his door. His wife locked herself like in the laundry room and called 911. Tucker's at work. New York Times threatened to publish his address, and he called them and said, don't do that. And they said, oh, he called whining because we published his name. The difference is a mob came to his house. No mob went to Taylor Lorenz's house. They tweeted things at her. It is incredible, but it is the standard. The New York Times, as always, they have a double standard. They think they're special. They think the rules don't apply to them. I don't know why people read it. I don't know why people take it seriously. They're the ones, who said, I could give a whole list, that Brian Sicknick got hit with a fire extinguisher. They made it up. It was fake news. We all know that now. They're the ones that try to rile up the mob with these kind of lies. It's what they do.
Think what they did to the children from Covington, Kentucky. The children. They went out, they basically called them racists and sent mobs of millions of people to literally threaten them. Children! Taylor Lorenz is 36. And we're worried about her feelings?
Because they wore red hats. That's it. That's all. It's unbelievable. It's
and they mocked an elder.
And here's why we love Tucker, Dave, is because he doesn't take it. A lot of people would just say, oh, I want it to go away. I don't want it to get personal. I don't want people coming to my house. He goes right back at her. And he said her name over and over. And that set them off. They get so upset that he said there, because he said her name, her full name. And by the way, mentioned that she went to Swiss boarding school and grew up in Greenwich. They called that cruel, and I get the whole statement. It's incredible. That, to them, is over the line. A cruel and calculated tactic which he regularly deploys to unleash a wave of harassment and vitriol at his intended target. This is from the New York Times PR department. They say Taylor Lorenz is a talented New York Times journalist doing timely and essential reporting. Journalists should be able to do their jobs without facing harassment.
What does that mean?
Tweets.
Think of the journalists, Gerry. Think of the journalists. And you got Sleeping Giants, by the way. They said, who would ever advertise on this show? And I said, probably somebody who wants to make a lot of money because he has the highest rated show in cable TV history. And that is generally the goal of a business, is to be seen. And so people buy your products. And they respond by saying, well, about 24 advertisers have left his show because he's a bigot. But go off, man. It's like, do you feel like you accomplished, like when you die someday, like So what did you do? Well, I got advertisers to leave Tucker Carlson. Oh, cool. Did you get his show canceled? No, he was actually more popular than ever. Oh, so you completely failed. You suck at this. You suck at cancel culture. You can't even cancel right.
They're the worst. They are the scum of the earth. Sleeping Giants, MMA, Media Matters, and the reason 20 advertisers bailed on them, is not because of Tucker's content. It's because you harassed them, shamed them, threatened them, and you said if you don't cancel your advertising, we're coming after you, and we're going to organize a boycott. We're going to reach out to your customer base, and once one company bows, as we all know, then they go after the next company and say, see what, so and so did,
Although Tucker,
just plain and simple, it's annoying as shit to deal with, and you just say screw it and put your money elsewhere where you're not going to deal with annoying assholes.
Right, but like Tucker, I gotta be the commercials on Tucker are the worst, the most annoying. It's like 2 a.m. television infomercials.
Right, where they got the thing you put in your ear to suck out the earwax.
Right, it's half Mike Lindell talking about Jesus, and then you got the old guy and his son with Seb Gorka standing there. My back feels better than ever on this new Posturepedic, whatever the hell. I don't even know what they're selling, but it's the same guys.
We got Wayne Newton or Sebastian and Focus Fat, not Focus Fat. What is it? It's like a patch to cure your pain. And it's the same things, but as we mentioned before, the advertising, and I hate to break it to Sleeping Giants, is not how they make all their money. They make it on cable subscriptions, and Tucker's making a ton of money, and Fox News is making a ton of money, and they can't stop it.
Yeah, and they're going to go the way of Turtleboy, right? They're going to use the television ratings to get direct-to-consumer money. Like Tucker Carlson's launching a new show on that Fox Nation app, and everyone's going to go buy that. So now they replaced advertising with you and I giving them our money, which is even better, actually.
Right, and like Turtleboy says, their whole existence is calling up advertisers and harassing them.
Imagine that's your life.
Imagine that's your life. Did you hear what Tucker Carlson said last night? He said, whatever.
Jerry, people have been doing this. I've been dealing with this since before it was cool. My first boycott was in 2015. I had these local assholes from Worcester calling up all my advertisers. Did you see what Turtleboy said about Black Lives Matter? Did you see? So all this, when this is starting to become mainstream, it's like I invented cancel culture. I was canceled before it was cool, so I'm prepared for this. These new people, they're not used to this. Chris Harrison, they're not used to this. I've been canceled before. I got over it, and I embrace cancel culture at this point because I've only grown as a result of it. So bring it on.
Yeah, me too. I used to be on the #1 morning show in the city, and now I'm here with...
Hey, with Turtleboy. You're moving up in the world.
Turtleboy and Kearney, wow. Anyway, I agree, it's a great story, and I think Turtleboy should continue to go after Sleeping Giants.
I'm going to.
Because you are good at this. We all know you're good at this. You're relentless. You're soulless. You just want to ruin them. That would be a wonderful thing. You know what? If you would become famous, you'd be at least in the right circles, and all the right people would applaud you if you could somehow expose those.
Well, that's how you punch up, Jerry. That's what I'm all about, punching up.
Punch up at Sleeping Giants. Go get them, Turtleboy. If you want to read some good stuff, go to Turtleboy now. You had a couple of great blogs the last couple of days exposing the frauds, the lockdown lunatic frauds, the hypocrites. I said this probably a year ago today, that this is right up your alley and you were going to kick ass during the pandemic, and you have. So check out Turtleboy's blogs at TB Daily News.
I'm also for hire as a cancel culture consultant, Jerry. If anybody wants, any advice or whatever, I charge hourly. Just let me know.
Yes, all you have to do is be completely, utterly insane like Turtleboy.
Yes,
and,
that's it.
Set your mind on something, go after it, and that's what he's done. You can enjoy his work again at tbdailynews.com. And what's the Twitter handle again?
You can find me at Turtleboy Phone or at TB_Aidan. I'm on both.
At TB_Aidan. Check him out. Thanks, Turtleboy. We will talk to you again next week. And thanks to 𝗪𝗏 Concrete and DCU and Allied Paving. Favorite new sponsor. Anything else, Callahan?